do it on its own, right? Like we need some working together, and we need to share some ideas. We need to build some new tools as well. So that's what we're going to talk about today, and also innovation, right? We all talk about innovation, how important innovation is, and I think by embracing new technologies and fostering smart partnerships, we can actually build stronger and more secure future for everyone. So today we can expect to hear from the leading experts. We'll have a few keynotes. We have a couple of panel discussions as well, and we will be talking about topics like, of course, AI, artificial intelligence, drones, and how industries are working together to protect us all. But before we start with our keynotes and panel discussions, I would like to ask for welcoming remarks to our Commissioner General of Czech Pavilion, Mr. Ondřej Soška.
Konnichiwa, Excellencies, distinguished guests, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great pleasure to welcome you here today in our Daisue Hall, the very heart of the Czech Pavilion at EXPO 2025 Osaka Kansai, for this special conference organized in close cooperation with the NATO headquarters. For many years, we lived in a world that felt stable and predictable. In Europe especially, we believed that peace was something that we could rely on. But today it is clear that this sense of security can no longer be taken for granted. The world around us is changing very fast. We are facing new kinds of threats like hybrid warfare, cyber attacks, disinformation, energy insecurity, and others. And all these challenges affect all of us from no matter where we come from. In times like these, strong partnerships are really essentials. That's why today's event is so relevant. For Czechia, this is also quite personal. We joined NATO in 1999, just over 25 years ago. And today, we clearly see how important and forward-looking that decision was. Becoming part of an alliance built on shared values, freedom, democracy, and the rule of law has made us stronger, safer, and more resilient. But NATO is not only about its members, it's also about close cooperation with partners around the world, because security today is not just about the military power. It's also about technology, infrastructure, information, and the trust we build with one another. Let me thank to Pietro de Matteis, NATO headquarters, and all our partners for making this event possible. I hope today's discussions will open practical and focus on how we can work to build a safer future for all of us. Thank you very much. Arigatou gozaimasu.
Thank you very much to the welcoming words from our Commissioner General of Czech Pavilion, Ondřej Soška. And now I would like to ask for a few words as well to Program Officer for the Indo-Pacific Engagement Section from the NATO, Pietro de Matteis.
Thank you very much to the Czech Pavilion for hosting us here. Konnichiwa. Welcome to this event, which is part of the NATO Days. First time in history, 76 years of NATO existence, actually we are part of a world exposition. And I'm very happy that actually it's happening in Japan, because Japan is a key partner for NATO. As was mentioned by Ondřej, and again, thank you very much for hosting us here today. You know, challenges today are so big. If you think NATO, when it was created in 1949, the world was very different. We had basically as NATO working on protecting land, air, and the sea. But now we have so many more domains to protect. Think of space, think of cyberspace. And the partnership with industry is essential. Because if we want to be able to maintain the ability to defend our citizens, we have to be able to have the best technologies. And who has technologies? Industries. you are, and the startups here today, are those that have the capacity to keep maintaining our ability to thoroughly defend our citizens. And that's why I'm so happy about this event today, which is very important. It's the only focused event specifically on industry. We have activities throughout the week. As you know, this week is the week dedicated by EXPO to peace, human security and dignity. So that's why we have this event today, because NATO is an organization that works for peace. Just peace, a fair peace. That's why we think we've done activity also with Ukraine. A fair peace, a just peace, and a rule-based international order. So I'm very happy with this event today here at the Czech Pavilion. We had the event at the Nordic Pavilion, we had the event at the Belgian Pavilion, at the Portuguese Pavilion, at the Canadian Pavilion, and today here at the Czech. So once again, thank you very much. Arigato gozaimasu. That's the only thing I can say, but thank you for being here. Arigato gozaimasu.
Thank you very much, Pietro de Matteis, for his welcoming remarks. And now, without further ado, let's just jump into our first keynote. First keynote will be talking about designing future security for our lives. And the man who is coming is Director of Innovation of NATO's Innovation, Hybrid and Cyber Division. His name is Dr. Nikos Loutas. And Dr. Nikos Loutas is a key leader in NATO, where he works in the Innovation, Hybrid and Cyber Division. He's currently serving as the Acting Deputy Assistant Secretary General for this area. His main job is to help NATO quickly use new technologies and create rules for things like artificial intelligence. This makes sure NATO stays ahead in technology. Before coming to NATO, Dr. Loutas worked for the European Commission and also had different jobs in private companies and research. In his talk, he will show how countries like Europe, North America, and the Indo-Pacific region are working more closely together. He will explain how NATO's partnership with countries like Japan, Australia, South Korea, and India can make the world safer. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Nikos Loutas.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank Czechia for hosting us here today, and all of you for being here. Excellencies, dear guests, we live in times of extreme geopolitical change. We also live in times of extreme technological change at a pace that is really hard for us to catch up. And this is even more true in the world of security and defense, in a world that maybe 50 years ago was leading change, but today has fallen back. So how can we now help ourselves stand back on our feet and run as fast as we can? So that's kind of the question I will try to answer. Many of you heard almost 2 months ago at the NATO summit, allies agreed to do very important things. They agreed to really ambitious defense targets, and they also agreed to an increase in our defense investments in order to be able to meet those targets. This is the famous 5%. So political will is there, 5% has been agreed, and now the real question is, how do we get there? And in order to get there, we actually need to look at our processes, we need to look at our needs, but we also need to look at the way we acquire and develop new capabilities, and that's where industry comes in. And what we see today is that the industry that we've perceived as our closest partners for the last maybe 50 or 60 years is no longer enough to help us meet our most pressing challenges today. And that's because the world has changed. We live in a world that is more digital. We live in a world where we have to face cyber threats. We live in a world where new technologies, if you look at Ukraine on a daily basis, deliver actual effect and impact on the battlefield. And all these new technologies, this new world actually, is being developed, is being shaped by a whole new family of companies, what we call at NATO with a very bureaucratic term, non-traditional suppliers. So this is all what you would imagine of tech companies, startups, scale-ups. Many of those companies were not here last year, were not here even 3 or 4 years ago, but today worth millions or billions of euro in some cases, and really deliver real capabilities. So Now the next question for NATO is, okay, what is your role in this whole ecosystem? And we see ourselves playing a role from two different perspectives. The first is that this new ecosystem of companies, of startups and scale-ups and tech companies, has no idea of what the defense world needs. It's positioned normally in the civilian world, in civilian ecosystems. They develop technologies that have strong dual use, sometimes even defense potential, but they don't know us, they don't understand us very well. So the first thing we decided to do at NATO is work on fostering and helping the supply side. So working with those communities in order to help them grow, help them understand what we need, and also shape their products to meet our needs. And in order to do that, we needed to put in place acceleration processes, and we also needed to put in place investments. And that's really important. Investments play a key role, and actually much more investment is required, because those companies deliver products that sometimes take 3 or 4 or 5 years to mature. If you think about quantum solutions, for example, and practically someone needs to fund those companies over these 4 or 5 years so that they can survive. And this is what is called very often the valley of death of startups. Some of them don't make it through. So there's a lot of money pouring from private capital, especially in the US. Europe is also catching up, but there's also an increasing amount of public capital going in this direction. So what NATO did already in 2022, also like 3 years ago, is that we established 2 complementary vehicles. The first one is our Defense Innovation Accelerator for the North Atlantic, a very long name for a very short brand, which is called Diana. So what Diana does, the main purpose of Diana is actually to, first of all, communicate to startup ecosystems, to innovation ecosystems across the 32 countries, what are the requirements of defense stakeholders, what are our most important military and operational needs. How they do that? They do it through consultation and looking at the defense plans and defense targets of the allies. The second thing that Diana does is it helps to, once those companies are selected, it helps them actually accelerate, grow through a 6-month process that can be extended for another 6 months. This is the acceleration program of Diana. Diana has been operational for almost 3 years now. It reached final operational capacity in June, and in total it has accelerated so far over 120 companies. Over 120 companies in 2 years have gone through Diana, successfully delivering solutions. That's a really big number, a really important number, keep it in mind. The second thing that we put in place was the NATO Innovation Fund. As we said, first acceleration, the second is bigger, more sizable investments, because these companies need real money to grow. They need millions, tens of millions of euros to be invested. So what 24 NATO allies did is they came together, used NATO as a platform, and put on the table over 1 billion euro for roughly over 10 years, 1 billion euro of patient capital that is being invested either directly into startups or into other venture capital funds. So the NATO Innovation Fund is an independent body. It does carry the NATO brand. It operates as a venture capital fund with market rules, and they've made today, up till today, 22 investments, invested directly in 13 companies and 9 venture capital funds. So great, we're working the supply side. A lot of companies have gone through that. Now what happens next? Those companies go to the market, they have interesting things, they're not very mature, they're making their first baby steps, and they're actually looking for customers. That's what every company does. And then they're faced with the monster of bureaucracy of defense stakeholders. Who is their customer? They're even excluded sometimes from procurement because of selective rules. They are too small, so people don't take them seriously. So this leads to the second problem, which is what we call the adoption problem. So what NATO did, the problem also for us is, first those companies either die or might be acquired by competitors, so innovation might go elsewhere, in places we also don't want to go. And of course our militaries might fall behind because they don't have the best in their hands. So what we did in this year's summit, allies agreed NATO's Rapid Adoption Action Plan. So the Rapid Adoption Action Plan is a set of, has a high ambition and a set of practical actions that will help allies first, because this is where the investments are made. Defense spending happens with the 32 countries, including NATO. And NATO secondary can use those actions to accelerate the pace at which we adopt new technology. To keep it short, there are 4 things that we are pushing through this action plan. First of all, a less risk-averse culture. We understand that we're talking about public money, and we understand that we're talking about military systems that have to be safe and trustworthy. But we do believe there's a lot of room for improvement to take some acquisition risk, for example, and sign a contract with a company, try their product. If it doesn't work, it might not be the end of the world. And at the same time, make sure that in our defense budgets, we earmark funds that allow us to experiment and acquire new solutions outside our budgeting sizes. The second is give more opportunities to those companies to participate in exercises and test their products. And there what we do is we bring the concept of Diana test centers together with a concept of what we call now the NATO innovation ranges. And we have 3 such ranges already launched, one with Finland and Sweden, one with Latvia, and another one in the region. What NATO innovation ranges do, they actually offer a space, a facility that is in most cases a Diana test center. They bring industry on board, and they combine this with a NATO force in place, like the forward land forces in Finland, led by Sweden. And they create an ecosystem where companies can go and test their solutions with actual end users, learn what they need, stress test their products, and find customers. The other opportunity we offer there is to provide a new way of integration of new technologies in our military capabilities, which is under the Task Force X model. You might have heard of Task Force X, and I will speak more about it later. And then the final point that we're doing is we're trying to clarify the procurement landscape through 2 initiatives. The first is we want to put in place an innovation support procurement vehicle that would allow NATO's procurement agency to do more joint procurement with countries on innovation. And the second element there is we want to put together a NATO front door for industry, because companies need to know which door to knock when they want to speak with NATO. More to come later, and thank you so much.
So thank you very much to Dr. Nikos Lutas for his opening keynote. And now we would like to, we will hear from the second keynote speaker, Mr. Hiro Hisamori, who is Director for Defense Equipment Transfer Strategy in the Ministry of Defense in Japan. Mr. Hiro Hisamori serves as the Director for Defense Equipment Transfer Strategy within Japan's Ministry of Defense. In this pivotal role, he is at the forefront of shaping Japan's policies and initiatives concerning the transfer of defense equipment and technology. His work is instrumental in fostering international defense industrial cooperation with a particular emphasis on strengthening ties and exploring new avenues for collaboration between Japan and NATO. Mr. Mori's expertise lies in navigating the complexities of defense technology exchange, contributing significantly to Japan's strategic partnerships and its role in global security. Please give a big hand to Mr. Hiro Hisamori.
Thank you very much for your introduction, and thanks Czech Commissioner hosting the NATO Days event and providing me to take a speech at such a wonderful pavilion. I think it's a very best location of the Osaka area, facing to the water plaza. So thank you very much. Today, I would like to explain Japan's efforts to strengthen international defense industrial cooperation, and also the potential area of Japan-NATO defense industrial cooperation. Security of the Europe Atlantic and security of the Indo-Pacific cannot be separated anymore in the age of the great power competition and the Ukrainian war. So, in this sense, allies and partners which share the same value and strategic interest should connect our defense industry bases and supply chains, as well as defense capabilities and operations, more strongly each other. Also, we, as well as NATO members, are all facing up great changes on emerging and disruptive technologies, which may be a decisive game changer in the future battle. So, in order to maintain our strategic dominance in the future battleground, we need to keep very close communication and, if possible, establish some kind of joint project on this subject as well. Actually, Japan and NATO already have one very comprehensive document on defense and security collaboration, which is called the ITPP, the Individually Tailored Partnership Program, concluded in 2023. The ITPP states that Japan and NATO effectively cooperate in the areas of capability and interoperability development, as well as standardization. The ITPP also states that Japan and NATO effectively cooperate on the current and future challenges and opportunities posed by emerging and disruptive technologies, including by advancing responsible innovation. Next, I will introduce our ongoing international efforts and international projects related to defense industry with some of NATO member states. For consolidating defense industrial bases and expanding industrial partnership, two major international cooperation frameworks have been established. One is DICAS, Forum on Defense Industrial Cooperation, Acquisition and Sustainment. It's a bilateral framework between Japan and the United States for cooperation on co-production, co-sustainment, and supply chain resilience. The second one is a PIPER, Partnership for Indo-Pacific Industrial Resilience. It's a multilateral framework involving Japan, US, other NATO member states, and IP4, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, and Korea. It aims to strengthen the defense industrial base across the Indo-Pacific region through discussion on co-production, supply chain enhancement, maintenance and sustainment, and policy optimization. The future achievement of these mechanisms will certainly enhance production and maintenance bases, as well as reinforcing the defense industries, including supply chain, together with allies and partners. Next, I would like to mention about GCAP, the Global Combat Air Program, which is a sixth generation fighter jet development program. It is our flagship project. The GCAP is a trilateral program among Japan, UK, and Italy. It will allow us to bring together respective technological advantages. Second, reduce development cost and technical risk. Third, supplement each one's supply chain. And four, achieve the economies of scale, as well as to five, to support economic and industrial growth and of the defense industry partners for engaging in R&D and manufacturing. In addition to the efforts I mentioned so far, ITPP also stresses about cooperation on emerging and disruptive technologies and innovations. As for this area, last October, ATLA, my organization, established a new organization, EISTI, Defense Innovation Science and Technology Institute, exclusively for exploring a variety of new technologies, which could include elements of game changer, by conducting innovative breakthrough researches to change conventional ideas and accelerate the speed of innovation. SDI is starting communication and cooperation with its US counterparts like DARPA and DIU. Cooperation in this technology area and jointly exploring potential game changer technologies together with allies and partners is very key for us to retain strategic dominance in future battleground. This April, when Prime Minister Ishiba and Secretary General Rutte held a meeting in Japan, Japan-NATO joint statement was issued, which includes pursuing defense industry cooperation in the areas of dual-use technologies, advanced technologies, and standardization for interoperability. And additionally, this June, a statement between NATO Secretary General and the 4 Indo-Pacific partners was issued in the context of the NATO summit in The Hague. It also includes enhancing our defense industrial cooperation and pursuing the same standards in terms of interoperability. In addition, previous ATRA Commissioner Ishikawa participated in NATO Defense Industry Forum in NATO Summit. Based on these documents and statements, ATRA will consider future cooperation with NATO in the area of defense industry bases, supply chains, advanced technologies, and standardization. Because of time constraint today, I likely touch upon our currently considering about defense industry and technology-related cooperation on these areas. For future interoperability with major members, standardization in our defense platforms and consumables should be enhanced. Japan will learn NATO experiences and practices in this area through joining a Conference of National Armaments Director, NATO Industry Advisory Group, and so on. Furthermore, we will seek to participate in new frameworks of NATO, which are open for 94 states, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, and Korea. For future supply chain connections and defense industry bases more consolidated, we would like to utilize GCAP. GCAP is a trilateral flagship project, but its suppliers are not limited to these 3 countries. As this project makes progress, I believe that Japanese defense industries will seek sophisticated suppliers more multinational. We will encourage Japanese defense industries more to attend networking opportunities such as NATO Industry Forum, like today's event. Last but not least, advanced technologies also have huge potential for future cooperation with each level of NATO. We will pursue an opportunity of this cooperation for innovation and emerging disruptive technology, including working together with Diana, our SDI's counterparts.
Thank you very much to Hiresa Mori for his keynote number 2. And now I would like to ask our colleagues if we can just a little bit change the setup here, because we're going to have the panel discussion now. And the panel discussion will be all about industrial cooperation and new technologies for defense, peace, and security. So we can just Perfect. Excellent. So I would like to invite all the panelists, which will be talking about this particular topic which I just mentioned. So Dr. Nikos Lutas, if he can please come here. Another one is Dylan Monahan and Dr. Massimo Artini. Okay, excellent, perfect. So before we start, I would like to introduce our panelists. So we already heard from Dr. Nikos Lutas. He's the Director of Innovation at NATO's Innovation Hybrid and Cyber Division, and currently serves as Acting Deputy Assistant Secretary General for Innovation, Hybrid and Cyber. He leads NATO's efforts to accelerate technology adoption and shape policies on emerging and disruptive technologies, including artificial intelligence, to ensure the alliance continued technological advantage. Prior to joining NATO, Dr. Lutas worked with the European Commission and held various roles in both private sector and research. He holds PhD in semantic web and data analytics. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Nikos Lutas. Dylan Monaghan is the head of missions of ISI Japan, where he leads efforts to identify new opportunities and drive business growth in Japan's space sector, with diverse backgrounds spanning microprocessor design, electrical power transmission, and over 20 years of active duty in the US Air Force. He brings a wealth of technical and leadership experience. His distinguished military career includes roles as a C-9 medevac and C-130 instructor pilot, as well as key staff positions in foreign military sales in both Hawaii and Tokyo. He holds degrees in electric engineering, business administration, and international affairs, and is actively involved in American-Japan Society of Tama Tokyo and the Japan-American Air Force Goodwill Association. Please join me in welcoming Dylan Monaghan. And last but not least, Dr. Massimo Artini, Defense Innovation Accelerator for North Atlantic, the Diana board member. He's Italian representative and vice chair of Diana Board of Directors at NATO. He has served as a national expert at NATO Communication and Information Agency and has a strong background in defense industry cooperation. He is also a chairman of Lauren Business, where he supports innovation and international growth for Italian companies. He previously served in Italian Parliament, focusing on defense and cybersecurity. He has worked in both government and industry with expertise in software, ICT, and international relations. Massimo Artini. So let's start with our panel discussion, and first question would be directed for Dr. Nikos Lutas. NATO is increasingly focused on innovation and hybrid threats. How does NATO balance rapid technological adoption with the need for security and interoperability among the member states?
Thank you. And I hope it works, yeah, it does. And you know, there will be questions at the end on my CV, and I'm buying drinks to whoever, you know, made it after the second repetition. No, it's a joke. All right, yes, you're raising a really good question. There's always this dilemma of practically moving fast but moving safe. And with our work in the Rapid Adoption Action Plan, we introduced two new ways to address that. So the first one is, as you mentioned earlier, the concept of NATO innovation ranges. I explained a little bit how that works. The important thing there is that those physical spaces bring together not only the infrastructure you need, but also the right people and the right skills, including people that do procurement and operational end users, but of course also industry. The second is the Task Force X example or paradigm. I didn't speak a lot about it because I want to emphasize this a little bit more here now. And that's what we call a new alternative way of developing capabilities. So very briefly, go back to end of last year, beginning of the year. There's a couple of incidents in the Baltic Sea threatening critical undersea infrastructure there. We sit together with our colleagues from ACT, trying to find a way that would actually allow us to monitor the situation there, and without having practically to deploy traditional military assets like frigates and things like that. So the concept was born to take this idea of what the US has been doing with Task Force 59 and 66 and repurpose it in the context of NATO. So fast forward today, what we have is a couple of tens of unmanned sea vessels that are patrolling certain parts in the Baltic Sea. They provide real-time information. All this information is integrated in the platform, and then the commander actually has view of what's happening. So that's a different way of approaching the problem. Within 6 months, building a solution based on new technologies that are out there, trying it out, learning from it, and then deciding how can we embed this in future capability.
Interesting. The question now goes to Mr. Dylan Monaghan. You're from ISI. Can you just briefly introduce what ISI is for those who doesn't know?
I'd love to. Well, first, big thanks to the Czechia team for putting this together, for Andre, Finnish Embassy for visiting. We even have some spectator viewers in the same kind of world we're in. The idea behind ISI's Inspective is this SAR radar, and that's synthetic aperture radar. One of the problems with viewing the Earth from space is you need light to illuminate the Earth, so you can have a photograph taken from space. But the Earth is, half of the day is dark, there's no sun. And even if there is sun, there's weather that prevents you from seeing what's on the ground. The idea we have is we want to be able to image the Earth anytime. We're talking about security. We need to know where things are on the ground so you can take action. And you can't wait until the weather clears. If there's a storm, if there's a flood, if there's enemies coming across your border. So how can you see the Earth without sunlight? Well, radar can go through clouds and rain. It works at night. And so you can take an image from space, looking down, coming back to your spacecraft. And you can do it any time of the day or night. That's essentially what we do. There's a little bit of math involved. We're seeing the Earth anytime you need to, anywhere you plan.
That sounds quite simple.
It really is.
How do you see your satellite data transforming the defense operation and decision making?
Yeah, that's a great question. How does our satellite transform defense? If you think about any country that's trying to defend their borders or trying to put a mission, or you have an emergency crew on the ground trying to find a house that's been flooded, we need to know where things are. You have to be able to see. We start with balloons, we try binoculars, we've had airplanes. And so now we've come up with this idea of why not put this SAR radar in space, put lots of them in space. And so within every hour you can see anything on the ground anywhere. Think what that means to a military commander. I'll give you a quick example. When Russia entered Ukraine, Maxar took optical photos of tanks coming down and saw it all around the world. Here they come. The Russian says, they can see it in the daytime. Let's move at night. Between 3 and 4 a.m. is when they start rearranging their ammunition trucks, rocket launchers. But they didn't know we were watching at night. And so they'd wake up to attacks that knew exactly where they were. If you're looking at flooding in Florida, that happened recently, cloud cover, lack of power meant that no one knew where the survivors were. But our ISI satellite map is up there and you say, this is where we need help. And so now it's not just defense, it's not just maritime. Brazilian rainforest is able to track where the trees are being cut. And you can reduce manpower and see what you need on the ground. It really is changing the way we think about doing our operations.
Let's move on to Dr. Massimo Martini, Diana board member. Diana, it's a short form, and
Yes, of course. First, let me thank you, the Czech Commission and the Czech Pavilion and delegation to organize and host this event, and thanks to the NATO support to this event. I think it's the perfect moment, the perfect timing to organize events like this among partners like Japan and all NATO nations. I think it is the, I just repeat myself, but the right momentum to do this kind of synthesis on these kind of topics. Coming back to Diana, I would like to add some words to the presentation that Nico just did before. In one word, Diana is a unique initiative around the world. I usually say that is a benchmark around the world. There's no other initiative that can merge the innovation among countries like Diana. As Nico said, more than 120 innovators accelerated, more than 1/3 accelerated in the phase 2 and moved to the financial world with another seal of excellences that come from NATO. And how it works. Based on some challenges, this year we approved the full operational capability in June. That means that we, in July, we published 10 challenges where at least, 15 startups will be granted from Diana for each challenge. So this year 150 startups will be granted. But the real value of Diana, what we experienced in the last 2 years was, at first, the network. What the startuppers told us is that not only the money, that's important, but it's not so important, but the network that we create all around the NATO alliance works. Because the Canadian startups can talk with the Italian Air Force to try to implement a mobile launcher for satellite. Or a Finnish or a French startup can raise their tier level to a very high tier level in 2 months in a test center in Italy, in the Cinieri in La Spezia. So what we experience, the real value is the network and the outcome. After 2 years, NATO implemented rapid adoption plan due to the work that we have done in Diana. And so, is a way to try to find a way to cooperate in the innovation, saying that innovation has no border, less than other industrial actors inside the defense. To be frank, industry, especially in Europe, has his own market to defend. Sorry for the joke, but it's true. In the innovation, you can find a way to go over these borders. And what we experience is that the country like UK, US, or Canada, they are another level of innovation. I mean, ecosystem, not only innovators, but I mean procedures, way to approach the financial world. This kind of approach is exposed to all other nations inside NATO. So what we experienced, we discussed with Nico before, this year we experienced that all nations has the ability to present startups in the challenges. And this is another goal, the diversity, geographical diversity we would like to reach. So, what is Diana? I think is one of the most valuable, together with MIF, initiative created by NATO in the last 3 years. And that I think that we must find a way, and there is a discussion inside the board, to explore a way to interact with partners about innovation. Because, and I'm going to finish my intervention, industrial cooperation does not belong only on primes company, belong only also on Tier 1, Tier 2. Capacity building belongs to one that really produce defense items. And innovations is not only in the solution that can be applied, but also the process that could speed the implementation or the raising of the capacity of production.
That brings me to another question for you as well. Are there some success stories? And if so, what are they? Can you name a few?
I remember few stories. 120 is not easy to remember. I have several in my mind. There is the first one, and I don't want to talk about Italian startups, to be fair, but I have several success stories also there. But for example, a French startup that works in underwater unmanned drones, they raise their tier level from 4 to 7 in 3 months in the test center of La Spezia, that is this one NATO center of excellences. They work together with the engineer, together with the end users, and in less than 3 months, they totally renew the products. The same happens last year. There is a Finnish company that has developed a way to transmit power in the fiber optical cables. So they can power, for example, drones that are guided by wire. They use some test center too in the northern part of the Europe, I don't remember where, but I was in London in June, and they discussed with me, told me, without Diana, I can have this kind of ramp up in my technological or maturity of my product. So all of them experience this kind of opportunity that come not only from the grant. Diana grants 100,000 euro at the beginning for the 150 startups, and there is a second phase that grants 300,000 euros. But the money is not so valuable like the opportunity to interact with the end users, company, and with NIF, for example, with the NATO Innovation Fund, and also with the test center where you can really prove what is the result of your research.
Okay, because we're talking about innovation, and I think in nowadays when we're talking about innovation, we need to touch upon AI, right? Artificial intelligence, and I would like to ask if there are any challenges in implementing AI within the NATO phases, and how the advanced system come across in such a diverse alliance. I mean, do you have any experience with that?
I wish I would say there's no challenge, but of course it's not like that. There are many challenges, obviously, and I think we've already discussed some of them. So the first is that NATO as an organization, but also many of the other defense ministries of defense or armed forces are not yet used to working with this new type of companies. So it really starts from the procurement, where practically there's a mismatch between the way a procurement officer would draft a call for bids and what a tech company or a startup would expect. And that's where it starts. Then there's, of course, challenges with regards to the technical challenges. So in many of those technologies or systems require certain types of data. In the armed forces, we produce tons of data, but actually most of it is not readily accessible. So there's a lot of effort to be made on very labor-intensive, boring, but also very expensive tasks to be done. There's questions and challenges related to the security accreditation of those solutions and whether they can be used in situations where you have classified data. And then, of course, there's challenges that relate to how you embed those AI-enabled solutions into your processes and how you review your processes so that you don't just somehow paint over the process with new technology, but there's no change in the process, but how also you improve your process using new technologies. So there's all those challenges. I think, I said also yesterday, I'm an optimist by nature. So the good thing is that we're learning, and we're learning fast. And for example, Massimo already spoke about many of the early wins, if I may say, of the companies. There are many more, many of them are signing contracts, many of them are raising significant capital from the market. But if I go a little bit closer to home also, we managed in NATO within 6 months pretty much, from the time SACEUR, so the Supreme Allied Commander for Operations, so the person that governs NATO troops in Europe, had a need with regards to situational awareness and SR, and practically within 6 months we managed to go from this identified need to fielding a technology solution provided by Pavilion. So we have ways to move our processes, but so far this is an exception, and we need to make the exception better.
You mentioned there are no challenges. So when you're looking at the AI, because I think that's the advances are very, very significant in many industries, obviously. What are the opportunities of using AI in your field?
I think that the opportunities are vast, and actually many of the opportunities help you address some of the challenges. Some of the practical examples we've seen all across the board. First of all, AI has an immense ability to process and analyze information. A lot of what militaries do is actually collect and analyze a lot of data, not only for intelligence purposes, but also for operational purposes and for back office purposes. So there, AI can help immensely. It can also free up human capital that can do other tasks. Think also that it's already hard to recruit people in the armed forces. With demographics, I don't think it's going to become easier. So that's already one. Then we actually see examples of how AI has helped deliver operational advantages in the battlefield. So there are AI solutions that, when they were applied, for example, to targeting, not only they enhanced and they accelerated target identification, but they also had a really direct, up to 40% effect on the amount of ammunition used, so that immediately has a positive effect on your stockpiles. And with supporting Ukraine now, stockpiles are under stress. So I think these are already some of the challenges. The third one I would like, the opportunities. The third one I would like to maybe mention is that AI today can also really help us strengthen our cyber defenses. There are significant AI cyber threats, but AI is also a very strong tool to strengthen cybersecurity.
Okay. So moving on, similar question to Dylan. ISI and AI. I think there might be some things, common grounds, right?
Absolutely. As you just mentioned, we're working with Pavilion here, who's one of his team in Japan. Finland's a very small country that has a wide heritage family. And if you're pulling as much satellite data as we can pull in, we can image anywhere in the Earth every 5 minutes, anywhere. That's an immense amount of data. The number of people to analyze and view that just doesn't exist. And so we have to pick and choose where we want to look at and hope we've got the right spot at the right time. But an AI solution, AI needs data. So we're the ground truth. We'll give you that fresh data of what's happening now and patterns of life, kind of forecasting what's happening next. And using a lot of the companies that are getting are thinking about these AI processes. We're going, where can we get some data to test this? Get it from us. And so it's a great synergy to make AI useful as a tool.
Are you watching us right now?
You know what's interesting is, I love this question. It's radar, we can see 25 centimeter increments, which we can't see people. I've had people say, can you find my husband? I don't know where he is. And so I was thinking maybe we can sell little hats to put on that'll pick up the radar signal and say, this is where I am. It is fascinating what we can and can't see with radar, but what is really amazing is how fast we're moving the technology forward. Things that we didn't think were possible before. For example, forecasting volcano eruptions. The first ever volcano eruption in Iceland that was forecast by a satellite from our company. And it was because we can see millimeter differences over time in the land. Now that was using manual labor saying, hey, these are going up and down, what does that mean? The meteorological agency said, that's magma moving. You can literally see it moving on the ground. That's a volcano. How about everybody evacuate? And 45 days later, we had an eruption that covered the town. No injuries, no human injuries. So yes, AI will be able to pick those things up and see it and present data to us in a way that's useful. Hopefully, preventing things like floods and damaging a lot of people. And so there's a huge future if anyone's working in AI to work with ISAC.
You presented some opportunities, but are there some challenges for you? I mean, what kind of challenges are you facing yourself? If you can disclose them.
You know, challenge is an interesting thing. So when we first started our satellite business, everyone said it can't be done. Well, why can't it be done? I said you can't make these massive satellites that are billions of dollars. You can't make them small and go in space. So we said, why can't you? No one knew why, but it hadn't been done, so therefore it couldn't be done. And so your point about what are the challenges? What I was hoping to leave with anyone interested in innovation. What is innovation? To me, innovation is saying something that's right in front of you, that you've seen your whole life, that you know what it is, and stopping and asking, why isn't that? And so the challenge is really not the challenge that we think of. It's after you've gone 5 questions, why deeper? Why has no one made a smaller satellite? Why are satellites have triple redundancy? Why are the parts so expensive? And if you run down those, you start solving one problem. And if you can solve one problem, you can move to the next one. So the challenge is picking a problem to solve.
Okay. Let's move on again. Dr. Massimo, how does Diana help bridge the gap between the civilian tech innovation and the military application? Especially, for example, we are talking about AI and drones and things like that.
Well, it's the most difficult part of the Diana initiative. Not because we don't want to, but you face against the military world. It's not easy to interact with them. And I used to say that Diana is a bridge between these two worlds. And as I said before, NATO has the idea to try another way. To NATO, they implemented, I suppose it's the same here in Japan, the implementation of a very complex system, system of defense takes at least 10 years when it is good and everything is fine. What's the approach of Diana is try to transform, to revolve this approach. And Diana, the approach of Diana is to try to expose the military requirements directly to the innovators. How? Diana put in place 2 things that in the procurement can speed up the process. There is 2 agencies in NATO Support and Procurement Agency that are logistic and help nation and NATO to implement mission and whatever. And the other one is the NATO Communication and Information Agency, that is the solution provider, the network provider, the cyber provider for NATO enterprise. I don't want to introduce you the NATO glossary, that's awful, but just to, NATO is the alliance, the NATO enterprise is the institution that govern NATO. These two agencies have signed an MOU with Diana that help the innovators that are granted by Diana to avoid any supply chain check before they can apply or be introduced in the procurement with NSPA and NCLA. This is a way to avoid the problem that you can face discussing directly with military. The other way is, and it is an experience that is not written, but what we used to see is that every single nation find a way to introduce innovators in their speed up procedure to link with the military side in the nation. I talk about Italy, that is more close to me, but we realized, for example, in the first year, we helped an innovator that was granted by Diana to join an European Defence Fund, that is the European way to fund defence project in research and development. And they help them, even if it's not written, we help them to join a Leonardo program, that is one of the biggest prime in Italy in aerospace and defense. And they win the grant also in the European Defence Fund. So there is a problem of speed inside the institution, but we try to push our effort to find a solution. For example, talking about Italy, but because I think it's the same in other nations, we create a committee that put together inside the staff of the minister the NATO Innovation Fund, the Diana, the Ministry of Economy and Finance, the Ministry of Industry, the Ministry of Defense, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs at the same table to understand how we can implement new way to speed up the process. And this helped create this kind of bridge between the civilians, that they can see for the first time this work, because no one knows. As you said, I have a company that works inside the defense. The first thing when you decide to crazily approach the defense world is to have patience, because to have a contract, at least 5 years. So, if you have this kind of approach from Diana that can cut times, this is a way to tell them, we can support you. Just to say, I don't want to be unfair, but what we experience in Diana is that, as Italian, there is a very high competition from nations that does not come from NATO in the approach to the innovators. China, for example. China put a lot of money in Italy to support innovators in medical research, in logistics, in robotics, and whatever. What we experience with Diana is that we have all the information about a lot of innovators around NATO. And that helps us to find a way to support them. That is one of the goals of them. Keep the edge of the technological level inside NATO.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I love this idea. One of the things that's been stuck
It's not mine.
We tend to think in terms of our country. This is the invisible line on the ground. So this is where the innovation happens. And next door, there's another country, another invisible line around people. You're stuck in your company, your funding. And one of the things we found at NICEAC, in 2025, we were one of the top 50 innovative companies in the world, and number 2 in space. And why did we get that award? One of the things we really believe is that as hard as space is to do, if you were only stuck in one culture that thinks in one way, everyone thinks the same way, and you don't see the problems. You ask Bruce, what's the problems? Well, if we bring this over to a German, and he says, that's stupid, why are you doing it that way? And you bring it over to someone in Japan who says, that doesn't make sense, we do it this way. And so in our company, we have 70 plus nationalities. We're trying to intentionally put people together who think differently. And we have a rule that you don't pick on the person. You're working on the problem. And it's okay to say, that's stupid, why are you doing it that way? Because the question of why forces you to explain something. That someone says, oh, why do you have triple redundant systems on a satellite? Well, in case something breaks, you can't get into space to fix it. Well, what if we didn't care if it broke? What if we made it better? What if we could go up in space and check on it? You know, you come start running through all the ideas, and you end up with something that's better than what you had when you had your assumptions. So when you put in the Diana, when you have the Leonardos, you have the small startups, everyone's working together, shoulder to shoulder, not just in industry, but sitting down next to the user. So when I speak to Atla, and we spend a lot of time together, speak to the joint staff, I say, what do you need? When Finland's ISI went to Kiev and sat down with the team in Ukraine and says, how can our imagery be better for you? I said, actually, we don't have any sound experts. We can't read your pictures. This is great, but we don't know what we're looking at. Could you make it easier to understand? And so we said, well, if we have a satellite staring at one spot, radars navigating right to that one spot, what if we did this angle is red, this is green, this is blue, so it's a spectrum of colors. What happens if anything man-made reflects strongly in one direction, like red? That's not natural. All the natural bounces in different directions becomes gray. So now the guys on the ground are going red. Ooh, it's in the shape of a rocket launcher. That's a rocket launcher. It's not a rocket. It's not a tree. And that's by sitting with the user. That's having people from many nations coming together. And so AI, innovation, is asking why, and working together, and not against each other.
Yeah, definitely interesting. But actually, back to you, Massimo, one more time. Begs a question from me. I mean, just to my understanding, where does this security screening comes into place? Because I think that's a challenge as well, right? Like you're talking about innovators, you're talking about companies from the private sector working on a defense, working on the systems that will actually serve the defense industry. Are there these threats? We're talking about threats, right? Like we're talking about some
threats.
Yes.
Oh, right. Well, one of the big issues, the border between the screening and the approach to the civil code. What we experience is that we must avoid the injection from nation that we don't trust. And it happens not only in Italy but also in other countries. That raises a discussion inside the board, for example. Is enough 100,000 euro to keep innovators inside NATO lines? Because I think that the Diana must show all the opportunities. I agree totally with you. The mix several cultures, also inside the NATO. Several different approach to procurement help us to find a way that can simplify everything and raise a very good products that can be adopted. But about security, there's no other way to check them. After we have pre-screened them, we think that there is another security threats we must approach. What happened after? What happened next? In the funding phase. And this is why we approach with a trusted capital database. That means that we would like to not only screen the innovators, but screen also the financial side that will be allowed to finance the startups that are inside the Diana programs and the NATO Innovation Fund is his own works. But what we want is that we need for 150 companies, 150 innovators, a way to fund them as soon as possible. Nico, before recall the value of death. You can avoid the value of death if you have a trusted capital database just done. Otherwise, there's no way to understand if, again, behind this fund there is some Chinese company or Chinese institution. That happens. I have, on the industrial side, experience of companies that are both by Chinese, bring all knowledge to China and then close them. It happens 2 months ago. So what we need to experience to avoid security problem is not only at the beginning, but during all the process. And we must be soft. I mean, we do not need to stress them. There is a lot of steps after the granting, after the second phase that needs to be checked by the ones that are need to give the green clearance, whatever. So, but at the beginning we must understand which is the whole picture around the innovators.
I think if
You need to jump in, right?
Just to add to what Massimo said, I think definitely one question is how we protect the young companies. Massimo explained how we do that. The second question is how do we protect our broader ecosystems, because to be able to select I don't know, 120 companies, we had some thousands of companies applying. So if you look, there's thousands of companies that are at risk, and what we do there is twofold. On the one hand, we actually follow quite regularly the trends with regards to foreign investments, or what we call adversarial investments, and they're very revealing because you can also see clear patterns. I mean, there's clear interest, for example, from China in investing heavily in biotech at the moment, or in quantum. Quantum is not a surprise. Biotech was actually, I think, a bit more interesting. Very, very active. And then the second thing is we're trying to be sometimes very blunt with the people, especially when we talk to procurement colleagues or militaries, but also when we talk to diplomats, saying if you really want to protect companies, you have to sign contracts. If companies don't have a way to survive, I mean, either people will go unemployed or they will go to the first bidder.
Yeah, that's actually a good bridge to my next question, which I have here. How does NATO foster the industrial cooperation between the large defense contractors and the agile startups?
We try to do that in through soft ways, if I may say. And there's a reason for that. Of course, when you have a small company, this company normally has some exit strategies in mind. One exit strategy might be we scale up and we become our own kind of mid-sized company. Another exit strategy might be we get acquired by a prime. We would prefer that not all startups are acquired by primes, because you might have cases where then innovation gets lost. So I think you need to be able to accommodate both. Now, in order to accommodate this kind of cooperation, what we do is we organize events. So whenever we have industry events, we make sure we bring both communities together. So, for example, in our event 2 months ago, the NATO Summit, we made sure that we have representatives from both communities. The same will be the case for the upcoming NATO Industry Forum in Bucharest in November. We are also reviewing our framework for industry engagement, the NATO industry engagement framework, and there we're also trying to find ways that would help bigger companies and smaller companies work together. And we see interest, of course, on both sides. So these are some of, or when we organize, for example, in an exercise or experimentation, we try to bring both sides together. It's similar to what you explained with Leonardo and the startup community.
So Dylan, how do you see it? Because you're coming from the company side, right?
So we're the startup whose exit strategy is to become that bigger company. But keeping the idea of how you solve problems. But when we were just two people in Finland in Aalto University, making a satellite was a huge risk. But now we've solved that problem and moving on to bigger problems. We're now almost 900 people, over 800 people. So now, what was a risk 10 years ago is too small for us now. So now we have to take bigger risks. One of the things we discovered is, while there's a great need for our data, most civilian small organizations are not willing to pay what it costs to put a satellite in space. But a nation's defense that depends on instant information will pay for that. And so we found there's a great balance. We work very well with the Finnish government, who is very supportive, helping us reach out to other nations. Here in Japan, that connection has driven a very high trusting government-to-government connection that we then support to make the defense of both Finland and Japan function. And then the offshoot is, now we have Tokyo Marine, IHI Aerospace, Osai Kake, and all of these insurance and manufacturing companies benefiting from that, so that they can then at a lower cost make their product work for their customers. So the whole ecosystem that comes from what you're talking about, which is connecting the business, connecting the government, make sure they're talking. Sometimes it's formidable, and other times you go, oh, that's how you do it. So someone being the middleman to connect those is so important for a small startup. Just that little piece. So our founder and CEO, Rafael, from Poland, he moved to Aalto University. He met Pekka. They're 22 years old in university. They're not thinking about defense. They're not thinking about building a company that's going to go and save the world. They're thinking, how can I watch the ice in the North Pole so ships can go through, because that's my college project. That's where this started. It was the government who came to them. Government recruiting actually says, how do we do this? The government of Brazil said, listen, we're some rainforest, can you work, they can do this. And that was the first time it opened their eyes to the world. Like, oh, but other people are interested in this little thing we're doing here in Finland, really. And that's why those connections are so important. Absolutely.
Sure. You raised a good point. When we talk about 5%, on the news now there's always this discussion, oh, where are we going to find all this money, and we will have to sacrifice social security to spend more on defense. I'm not an economist, but what I do know is actually that there's enough research data that shows that investments in defense has significant downstream externalities on other economic sectors, up to 30% in some cases. So we might have to do a bit of forward loading in defense at the moment, but very, very shortly we're going to find these positive impacts back in other sectors of our economy. And I think that's an example you just gave. Thank you.
I think that's an excellent point we're making here, but I don't want it to be just kind of like one-sided. I'm asking questions, but so I think there's an audience. If anyone from the audience has any question to our panelists, is there any questions?
If anyone wants a brochure, so here we have more of these brochures. They're all in Japanese. So, 日本語わかる人これ興味あったらぜひ。And also, I think it's cool to let people know we're in the world. So I have these keychains. I still have a few left over if you want them. If you didn't get one yet, come talk to me.
Those are the chips which will be watching you after you leave this place.
your questions, please. And by the way, we're open to anything. The thing I really want to talk about today is innovation. How can we innovate more across Europe and Japan? I really think that there is opportunities that are being missed because of these invisible lines in the ground. I sat down just one before I start. So Sinspective, there are work here in the room, and oftentimes we think of people in the same space as competitors. We think of ourselves as kind of working together to solve a bigger problem, and one company alone is not going to do it.
We have cost.
Thank you for a fantastic discussion. And my name is Tim Olof. I'm a citizen of Norway, and thank you for inviting me here. Very interesting to listen to you guys. Responsive space, it's happening all the time, it goes faster and faster and faster. And Finland and some of the older countries that are shooting up satellites, how do you see this into the future? I mean, just a motto of satellites out there, and also the competition in space.
So there's multiple layers to your question. First, getting things into space is not easy. You've seen some companies don't make it, some people do. When I talk about innovative companies, Rocket Labs in New Zealand was #1 on the list. We're putting 12 rockets in space last year, on time, on schedule. It's great to have more people be able to do that. If we think about how crowded space is, you'll see those pictures that show all the satellites in space. They often make those dots very big so it looks like it's a carpet. But if you picture how many cars are on the road here in Tokyo, and imagine you've gone up 500 kilometers, we have lots of space in space. Where we're going next is trying to understand how to use it better. And from our perspective, if you knew that a Chinese warship was coming to Japan and you knew exactly where it is, you could act on that. And China might decide not to send the ship in the first place. So we don't have enough satellites that can view the Earth, communicate. And so I think the future is in space, and I'm curious to see who is interested in working with us. And not just ISI space, but space in general. Coming from an Air Force background where space to me was just, the area around me, this is eye-opening. And until you get on this side of the fence, it's hard to realize how close space is to what we do. Right now, every single person in this room is accessing space at this moment. You got a phone in your pocket that has perfect time. That's from space. You're out there talking on your phone, you're being located from space. Google Maps, I've got the time answer. Google Maps doesn't stop working when it rains.
If I may chip in, there's also another angle, I think, from an innovation point of view. Given that many of those technologies are still being developed, I think it's interesting to have more than less, so that we can they're able to assess and experiment and test. And maybe in 5 years from now, the market will find ways to rationalize. Maybe companies might fuse together and things like that. But I think at the moment, probably variety is a luxury, so I would welcome that.
I think we can carry on with this discussion for many more hours, but unfortunately, many more weeks as well. Yeah, true. Unfortunately, our time is running short, and we need to break now for coffee, which is obvious. Bring any kind of conference, you can have a coffee break. So we're going to break for a coffee right now, and I thank you guys. It was Nikos Lutas, Del Morgan, and Massimo Martini for this perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you. The gentlemen, they will stay here for coffee, I hope. So you will have an opportunity to talk to them privately as well. So now we'll have about 15 minutes, now 3:45, so until 4 o'clock we have a coffee break, and we'll come back for another panel discussion. So thank you very much once again.
Grazie. Sarebbe bello. Devo fare questo. Bene,
Done? No? Yes? Ah. Yeah. Ah. Okay, cool. Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay. Thank you so much.
Ty wczoraj gdzie są wczoraj? Wiesz, jestem słaby. Nie tu na wodę. Jeszcze na odmienie. Wiesz, już to dobry wciąż, tak?
Now you Sorry about that. Yeah, I know.
So, I think it's time we're gonna start our afternoon session. So can we all please sit down and let's carry on in our conference. Okay. Gentlemen, would you mind if we just all sit down and so that we can carry on? Max, thank you very much. Perfect. During our first sessions, we had two keynote speakers and we had one panel discussion. I think it was very, very interesting. And now we're going to move to another panel discussion. So I would like to ask Andrea de Florida just to come up on stage and introduce her panelists.
You want to join me? Good afternoon, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here today and to welcome you to the next panel on our session, where we will explore how scientific cooperation can support the evolving security environment that we find ourselves navigating. My name is Andrea Fleurea, as I was kindly introduced by my colleague, and I work for the Science for Peace and Security Program, or SPS as we call it, at NATO headquarters in Brussels. Our role, in a nutshell, is to promote dialogue and practical cooperation between NATO allies and partner countries based on scientific research, technological innovation, and knowledge exchange. Now, I know that science is not the first thing that comes to mind when people think of NATO, but that's exactly what makes SPS special. The program brings together scientists and researchers, professors and PhD and postdoc students to tackle some of the most pressing challenges that we are confronting today. These are all individuals that work in civilian institutions, so we're talking about universities, about research institutions, about labs, about non-governmental bodies, and who collaborate across borders to develop fresh ideas on how to preserve peace and security. And today we are fortunate enough to have with us three of them, each offering a unique window into how science and innovation can drive peace and security. But before I pass the floor to them, allow me to take just a few moments to share what SPS is, how it works, and how any of you in the room can have a direct contribution to the preservation of peace and security. So, SPS is one of NATO's most unexpected, but in the same time, most powerful tools. Those of you who followed the previous panel heard insightful reflections on the role industrial cooperation plays in our innovation ecosystem. Well, SPS brings another actor to the table, and that's the academic and scientific communities. And that's now no small addition, I might say. We are talking about drawing on the expertise of the brightest of minds from across 32 NATO allies and 35 NATO partner countries. Think of SPS in that sense as an innovation engine, fueled by the best that the academia and science have to offer. So, how does this work in practice? We support cooperation through grants. Each year, we launch 2 calls for proposals, in response to which we welcome applications for a series of activities. Talking about the sort of activities that we fund, first we have multi-year projects, which are basically the backbone of our program, as almost 80% of the activities are MYPs, as we call them. So these are large-scale projects that typically last up to 36 months, and they focus on advancing research or on technological development with a very clear security purpose. Then we have advanced research workshops. These are short expert-level meetings that bring together scientists and specialists for knowledge exchange, so that's the main focus. And also we found training activities, whether in the form of advanced training courses, which are tailored for experts, or advanced study institutes, which mainly target postdocs. Now, there are two features that make the SPS program truly unique. First is that every SPS activity involves one ally country and one partner country. This is the heart of our motto, because in our view, science isn't just about breakthroughs, it's about the connections that lead to those breakthroughs. Second, every activity we fund must make sense from a security perspective. And you'd be surprised at how broad that can be. We have an entire list of our key priorities on the website, which I invite you to check out, but just to name a few, there are emerging and disruptive technologies, which include AI, autonomy, quantum biotechnologies, novel materials, space, and next generation communication networks. Then we have cyber defense, environmental security, critical undersea infrastructure, chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear defense, hybrid threats, counterterrorism, just to name a few. These are therefore these two defining features, so the partnership dimension on the one hand and the security relevance on the other hand, are what set SPS apart from a conventional funding mechanism, and what also render it into an invaluable tool within NATO's broader innovation ecosystem. I could go on, but that would mean taking time from those with real experience on the ground. And they're the ones best placed to show what it really means to work under the SPS umbrella. So let me introduce you to our panelists. We have with us Professor Nokusama Kiyama from Hitotsubashi University. He's a leading expert on international security and also serves as a director for the Center for Disarmament Science and Technology at the Japan Institute of International Affairs. Next, we have Dr. Takeshi Oshima. He serves as a director at the Quantum Materials and Applications Research Center, and he is also a professor at Tohoku University. His research on quantum materials and radiation effects supports application in national security, space, and energy fields that closely align with key SPS priorities. And we also have with us Professor Motoyuki Sato, Professor Emeritus at Tohoku University, who is currently working in humanitarian demining in mine-affected countries like Cambodia and Ukraine. Thank you so much for being here with us today. So, professors, up till now we have been talking about SPS in a more theoretical fashion. Its structure, its mission, and the kind of cooperation that it enables. To help the audience get a real feel of what this looks like in practice, I'd like to invite each of you to briefly talk about your SPS project, focusing on the challenges that it addressed, the cooperation it involves, and also the security.
Great. Thank you very much for kind introduction. I'm Nova Kiyama. I'm teaching international security at the university in Hitotsubashi, and then also the director for Center for Disarmament Science and Technology. And I have two disclaimers. One, I'm trained as a political scientist, and normally people say political science is the least scientific science in the world. So I'm not so sure whether I fit into this panel as a scientist. And secondly, my project is pretty much unique. Again, this is not really about innovation or technology or science. but this is about innovation of the policy framework with which how we are going to utilize the innovation and technology for the other side, peace and security. So my project is called a toolkit for assessing Indo-Pacific conflict risks and strengthening regional crisis planning. And this is not the project only run by the Japanese and the Europeans. So this is a kind of a collective efforts of IP4, Indo-Pacific partners of the NATO countries, Japan, Republic of Korea, Australia, and New Zealand, and along with some NATO countries think tank. So we have two think tank network. One is called Asia Pacific Leadership Networks, which is located in this region. The other is European Leadership Network, that is obviously focusing on Europe. And these groups are doing a research and advocacy on how to reduce the various risks and the conflicts, potential conflicts associated with mostly nuclear. But now we are stretching into wider scope. For example, how we are going to reduce the risk of armed conflict, and how are we going to reduce the maybe potential threats posed by the technological changes and shifts. So we just started this project with these country partners in the region. I'm serving as country director for Japan here. Then, so our objective is to find toolkits for example, the conflict management or the escalation control. So, as you are aware, the security environment in this region is so much complicated. In particular in East Asia, we have 3 nuclear armed states, and each of them is now developing their nuclear capabilities. But the 2 main potential flash points, the Taiwan Strait and the Korean Peninsula. Then additionally, most countries are kind of demonstrating the remarkable economic growth. That means technological innovation. So the innovation of technology could have a significant impact in changing the environment, of security environment. So how we should deal with these complex security challenges, including cyber space and cognitive domains. Then, so altogether, we need to really address, along with the traditional threats, including nuclear and conventional forces. Then, it is important for us to have a better toolkit of mitigating such risks. So we are working together as a group to identify what kind of communication we should make with allies and partners, including the European allies. At the same time, how we are going to communicate with potential adversaries so that we are able to sort of have a mutual understanding which would reduce the unnecessary escalation or miscommunications. So this year we just started a project. So currently what we are doing is to identify the key sort of communication channels and existing toolkits. With this, we are trying to further upgrade what we can do, in particular by employing emerging and new technologies like satellite imagery kind of analysis and artificial intelligence to detect early warning signs in, for example, social media and so forth. So I'm very much looking forward to the result, and also further communicating and collaborating with European and Indo-Pacific partners.
Thank you. Takeshi?
Thank you very much. So first of all, I would say thank you very much for inviting me to this wonderful event. So I'm very happy here. So I'm Takeshi Oshima. I'm working at the National Institute for Quantum Science Technology very long. So I studied radiation effects on semiconductor material and devices from the two different purposes. First one is to create nice qubit, quantum bits or quantum sensors in the wide bandgap semiconductor, like nitrogen vacancy center in diamond or silicon vacancy in silicon carbide. Both works for the quantum bits and quantum sensors. It's very important for the quantum technologies. Second one is the radiation effects on semiconductor devices for space or nuclear applications, such as the radiation effects on solar cell for space, or very hard radiation hardness devices for nuclear power plants or nuclear facilities. Then, so looking at my history about the SPS, so I had some friends at the Croatia and Slovenia. Then, so we studied the radiation and development of the nuclear detector. I mean, the particle detector based on the silicon carbide and the SPS program. So this is a very nice detector because the silicon carbide has a very high radiation resistance, also very high radiation environments. For example, we can use this kind of radiation detector, especially neutron detector at the border of the countries, because maybe you can imagine, so if someone illegally import or export the nuclear products or nuclear materials, it's very, very bad things about the national or international securities. The reason why we decided to develop the very nice, compact and environment resistant nuclear detector, especially neutron detectors. At the time, so we collaborated with the Ruđer Bošković Institute in Croatia, also the Joseph Stefan Institute in Slovenia, and also the University of Aveiro of Portugal, and ANSTO of Australia. Then at the time, so we fabricated the particle detector based on silicon carbide, so diode type detector. Then we provided that detector to the partners. Then we characterized the detectors, and also we together made the experiments at the Joseph Stefan Institute for the neutron detection characterization. This is my history about the SPS. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Motoyuki Sato. I'm an emeritus professor at Tohoku University, Japan. Maybe can I have my slide? Okay. I'm an electrical engineer. I have developed a new sensor for landmine detection for more than 20 years. It's a very special sensor. It's a data technology. And my SPS project conducted during 2020 to 2023 in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So more than 30 years ago, Bosnia and Herzegovina was seriously affected by the landmines. And there is still many landmines and explosive ordnances and other objects of value, even in near the capital, Sarajevo. And so that blue one, the miners are taking, is our sensors. We already have developed these sensors, and the purpose of this SPS is that how we implement these new sensors to landmine affected countries. So Bosnia and Herzegovina was one of the typical situation for our sensors. Yes, next please. Okay, so after we trained the deminers in Sarajevo, we also went to the real minefield. It is only a 30-minute drive from the Sarajevo city, and still we can find many explosive objects there. So we could detect objects there in the real operations. Next, please. Very shortly, technical issues. That we can see is a smartphone. It's quite regular smartphone. Maybe you have ever seen how the landmine is detected in mine-affected countries. We use so-called metal detector. Metal detector have an audio signal to show the existence of the metal object, and the miner have to excavate the objects. But our sensor provides information on smartphone as a visual image, and metal detector information and radar image. Radar image means we don't have to excavate the land, but just sensing on the ground surface, scanning the antenna on the surface, we can create the image of the valid object on the smartphone. So that the red spot that we can see on the screen is a mine. And then knowing the position and the size of and the depth of the mine, the miner can excavate it very safely. So that is a new technology. So next, please.
3. It's being used in war-torn Ukraine. Sato hopes it can provide a foothold for me.
Maybe later I can introduce about the situation in Ukraine, but our sensor is now deployed in Ukraine too. So that is what we have. That is a kind of extension of our SPS project.
Thank you so much to all of you for the fascinating insights. It's amazing to see how diverse your work is, and yet how you all provided a security angle in as an outcome to your work. That brings me to a question that I imagine that many in the audience might have. How does one even begin to work internationally on something that contributes to security? And I would like to hear from you what opens that door, whether there was a moment in your research that you felt that it's the natural next step to take, or it was a shift in perspective required. I would love to hear how your journey started. Yes.
So is it individually or kind of collectively as a project?
Both, I would say.
Right.
Since I feel that there are different perspectives, I would say both.
Right. So I started my career in Hiroshima. After finishing my graduate work, I was looking for a job. And then actually I did work which is nothing to do with the peace. But when I started my job in Hiroshima, and naturally I was involved in various peace issues. So then I kind of started my project on the nuclear disarmament, and also at that time there were several missions or peace operations by United Nations, NATO, and others. So I got interested in the conflict resolution. So that's kind of beginning. So I'm rather latecomer as an academic to study and work on security issues. Then since then, I constantly work on the projects, but on related to nuclear arms control, disarmament, mostly, but other issues related to these arms reactions, threat reactions. Then, with regard to this particular project, now the security environment in this region and in the Pacific is seriously deteriorated. Then we are feeling that there is a lack of communication among the stakeholders in the region, particularly between adversaries. And so we thought that maybe we should find out the way to reduce the certain threats and mitigate the risk and prevent, the worst case scenario. And that is particularly relevant after we witnessed what happened in Ukraine. Interestingly, in Japan, the more number of the people got interested in how we should strengthen deterrence, including the sort of extended nuclear deterrence by the United States after we witnessed the invasion in Ukraine. So, of course, the deterrence is a part that we have to work on, but at the same time, we have to think about how we are going to further reduce the risk and identify the threats and take care of those threats before it gets serious. So this project was started with among the like-minded people of this region. Then, of course, the security environment became more complicated due to the entanglement between Indo-Pacific and transatlantic theories. So, I thought it's a great opportunity for us to further collaborate between two theories, Indo-Pacific and transatlantic regions. So that is how we started the project.
Thank you.
Okay, so actually I had a collaboration with the project Bosco Institute Croatia before the SPS project started, because we both got the one national project based on the under the JSPS program. JSPS is a Japan Society for the Promotion for Science. That's we started already then. So the topics were the same, so silicon particle or neutron detector based on silicon carbide or diamond. Then the duration of the JSPS program was only 2 years. Then after that, we tried to find the further program to extend our research. Then at the time, so we found the NATO SPS program. So then we both submitted to our proposal as a silicon carbide particle detector for the border securities. Then we succeeded. Also, the good thing is the purpose. For example, the neutron detector is very nice for not only for the border security, but also we can apply this kind of technology to the space or nuclear applications. This means that our study is not only for the border security, but also for the security for the nuclear power plants or security for the space. That's
Thank you so much.
Okay, I have involved in the development of the radar technology within 40 years. And the radar technology can be used for different type of applications, including the spaceborne satellite for ground surface observation, and weather monitoring, air control, and so-called ground penetrating radar that can see the subsurface structure. In a previous panel, there was the colleague talk about the spaceborne satellite. And Japan also has very good such a microwave satellite or satellite. It is nowadays widely known. And a ground penetrating radar that I have just shown for the landmine detection has been used for detection of the varied pipes, gas pipes, or the electrical wires, or the water pipes, under the pavement. And for the excavating the pavement, we have to detect what is valid, and so that such a ground penetrating radar has been used. So I'm involved in the radar development for environmental monitoring, like soil moisture in Mongolia or the other places, or the archaeological survey. About 20 years ago, landmine issue gathered interest because of the Afghanistan or the Cambodia so much affected by the mines. And the landmine issues are a little bit sensitive for Japanese, and also especially in the Japanese university. It's a kind of border of the military activity and humanitarian activity. And we have to very clearly define the humanitarian environment. And in 2000, the Japanese government announced that we may involved in the humanitarian demining for anti-personnel mines. And then that is a kick off my starting the development of the radar sensor for the landmine. So I already have much experience of the non-penetrating radar, so we could start the work then after. So that is the beginning of this work. And then after, the deployment of the radar technology for the demining was very successful in some mine affected countries like also Croatia, Bosnia-Herzegovina, and Cambodia. But the situation in Ukraine is completely different, and so we have not expected that happens, but we are continuing our activities there.
Thank you so much for touching on this question in such a personal matter and sharing your stories with us. Moving now to the second SPS defining element, as we were talking in the beginning, which is the partnership angle. I would like to know, what did cooperation bring to your project? What became possible because you worked across borders with institutions or perspectives you might have otherwise never engaged with?
Thank you. My project has a kind of two-layer cooperation mechanism. So one is cooperation within the Indo-Pacific. So we have Japanese, Korean, Australian, and New Zealand teams, and we are collaborating and coordinating and make a sort of assessment of the strengths, assessment of vulnerabilities, and then try to sort of now make a long list of the sort of intra-regional sort of dialogue and coordination mechanisms. On top of that, we have a sort of how do you call it? Intercontinental cooperation. So our group is called sort of Asia Pacific Leadership Network, and that is a kind of a sort of hosting organization for this project. Then that project is conducted in collaboration with European Leadership Network. The European Leadership Network is the group of experts and policy people from various parts of Europe. So, they're talking about the differences and similarities and sharing the threat perceptions and maybe kind of how we sort of assess the risks. It is kind of further facilitate the importance of cooperation, and because now the security environment in the Pacific cannot be sort of assessed without taking into account the situation in the Europe. So, former Prime Minister Kishida said that today's NATO is tomorrow's Europe, tomorrow Asia. So, the similar, risk is there here in Asia. So, it is important for us to compare notes. Then I try to think together how we are going to avoid next war, which could be catastrophic. And so, collaboration is bringing us into the sort of new ways of thinking, and also it is bringing us a kind of way how we expand the perspectives and horizons of the scope. So, that makes our project far greater than we possibly anticipated. But I think that is also a benefit of the collaboration.
Thank you.
So my case is, I would say two things is because I'm involved in the new science. So one is very important for me, okay? So we can do everything by ourselves. So for example, I can do everything by myself with the same. So I need some partners we need some partners. I think that's in this sense. So we try to find the institute or university. They can do something, but we cannot do these things. Then we decided to start starting the international collaboration, because international collaboration is very nice because we have many institutes in the world. The reason why first one, so I started collaboration. The second one is the development of the human resources, especially for young researchers. So the experience is very important. If young researchers studies their topic only in Japan, it's not a good idea because they don't know the other world. So we should know the researcher who working at the foreign countries. Also not only research but also cultures. Even we understand the research itself, it's not enough. That's just kind of telecommunication. But if once the young researcher visit at the other countries, then they understand the study and culture itself. It's also very nice to develop the nice friendships. As a result, maybe this is good for the world peace. So this is my second opinion. That is why we started the collaboration.
As I said before, we a little bit hesitate to start the development of the radar sensor for the humanitarian mining. But after we could kind of sign off the go ahead, we had many chances to attend the international conferences for the landmine detection technologies. And to be honest, around the 2000s, many European research organization or the university already have started this research work. So we are not the first group that we have started. Maybe we are a little bit later. But based on that experience and the knowledge from the conference, we could learn many things. So humanitarian demining is not so simple. It is not only detection and excavation, clearance operation, but it also includes many legal issues and also mental issues, and also the effect of the clearance to the local the people, not mostly the local farmers, for example, in Cambodia, or the local people living in former mine-affected countries. So it is not so simple. So many conferences held in former Yugoslavia and Croatia. Before that, I did a little bit intensive collaborative work with the Netherlands. Netherlands also provided many technology for humanitarian demining. And then in a conference, I met a Dutch researcher who I have acquainted for more than 20 years, and also the colleague from the Bosnia and Herzegovina at the same conference. And he's a manager of the humanitarian demining activities in the Bosnian federations. And the three of us discussed about the possibility of the deployment of the new technology. So conventional technology already have been introduced very successfully, but we need a very effective way to clear the mines. So we decided to introduce our new sensor to Bosnia and Herzegovina. So that was the initiation of our activity at that time.
Thank you so much. Nobu, did you want to add something?
Yes, I have a different intervention about some engagement with youth. So he talked, my colleague talked about the importance of engaging young scholars. And I think the scheme for this the project probably has a kind of important mandate to develop the capacity of young researchers and then sort of to make them exposed to the international network of professionals. I think that is very helpful for the young the researchers, scientists, to develop their capacities and expand the sort of scope and change the mindset, more kind of forward-looking about international collaboration. So I think SPX program really helps the young scholars, especially outside, to sort of expose to the various experiences.
Thank you so much. Your intervention actually links into my very next question. As I was listening to the three of you describe what cooperation brought to your project, highlighted how much of these works depends on being open. And for many scientists who are focused on a particular domain or in a strictly national context, the idea of stepping into an international security-related project, which might not have anything to do at all with their background, might seem like a very big leap. So I propose that we bridge that gap for them. And if a scientist is perhaps sitting with us here today, or a researcher for that matter, could you share from your experience one piece of encouragement or practical advice that could help them see the possibilities that lay ahead and to be bold enough to take that step?
Thank you. I think for the young people, it is important to not to stop thinking about anything. So when we take a look at something, then I just, oh wow, this is the water. That's it. Probably that's not the attitude that we should take. In other words, so is this water tasty? And why this is liquid? Why it gets hot if I expose the sun? So I think the curiosity is really important. And then when it comes to the peace, we are exposed to so many news about tragedies taking place everywhere in the world. And then I like, as a professor at university, I always tell the students, don't just look over whatever you witness on TV. Try to investigate the root causes and why it happens, and also imagine what's going on. Like in the case of Landline, what if his work didn't exist? What happens to the people who are living in the area? So I think expanding the sort of imagination is something I'm always hoping that my students have. So I think it's something the same for researchers. And when I was a little younger, probably that was my career was kind of stuck because I stopped thinking about this way. I got the routine work of reading a paper and writing paper, and that's it. But when I'm more involved in the policy work, I thought this is we need to address the root causes of the problem. And thinking about root causes requires a lot of innovative sort of thinking. So even the policy, policy is a kind of old-fashioned area of research, but we need an innovation on the policy. Also, we need a policy to allow innovation to be more useful and more practical, and how we are going to apply the result of the technology as quickly as possible that help the people and the human beings' welfare. So I think innovation is pretty important, but that comes from the mindset of the people. So I just really want to emphasize, don't forget about this mindset, and I tell it to myself as well.
Thank you so much.
Actually, I completely agree with the Professor Kiyama. So I would say seeing is believing. So that means, if you are interested in something, or if you have some questioning, please try it. So that is very important. Cool. Today, just I talked about my experience about the nuclear detector based on silicon carbide. But looking at the world, we have many issues. For example, environmental issues, the territory issues, or many issues. That means, so you can be involved in many things. That means, so I would say, if you are interested or if you have some questions, please go ahead. Then, if in that case, as I said, so you can do everything by yourself. That means maybe you have to find out the very nice friends, neighbors, sometimes in Japan, sometimes outside Japan. This is very important. Just I want to say this.
So at university, I always said to the students that the engineer is a kind of a science. How the technology can be used for the human being or the human society. And we continuously keep developing the technology for so long. So there is some organization, international organization, who have took the statistics about the causality of number of the causality of the accident of the caused by the landmine detection in the world. So statistically, these numbers continuously decreased from 2000 to around 2013, and very unfortunately, after 2013, there is a very drastic increase of the number of these accidents. That is caused by many terrorists, or the IS, or these kind of issues. Not conventional causality by the landmines itself. And then, of course, after 2022, the causality rapidly increased due to the intrusion of Russia to Ukraine. Now we are working in Ukraine, and I visited Ukraine last month, and observe the situation. So normally humanitarian demining have been worked in peace era. So there is no conflict around it, and then we can consume so much time for the safety, because 100% clearance of the landmine is required for the humanitarian demining. The situation in Ukraine is completely different. So on one side we are clearing the landmines, and the other side they are burying the mines. So the number of the landmines buried will be even increased. So we are thinking not only that landmine detection in the wartime, because it's actually close to the military activities too, but even in Ukraine we separated from the military activity for the humanitarian demining. But we are thinking about the, after the war, we hope the war ends soon, we don't know. But we are planning how we can implement our activities after the war. So I think very long-term consideration of the technology is quite important. We don't know what happens, but we continuously to work on that one. That is one of the key issues that we're thinking about.
That's a great note to end our conversation on practical advice that I hope resonates with anyone in the room who might be considering whether their work could contribute to in the security space. Professors, thank you so much for sharing with us not just your expertise, but also your personal paths that brought you to SPS. Your experiences have definitely shown us how SPS turns scientific ideas into practical cooperation with real security impact. It's really been a privilege to have this discussion with you. And that brings our conversation with the panel to a close, but it also opens the door to a wider point. Across 32 allies and 35 partner countries, scientists and their institutions are working together on challenges that no single country and no single discipline, for that matter, can tackle alone. You have seen that there is no formula for joining this work, for joining the SPS. For some, it might be a natural extension of their research. For others, might be a bold step into new territory. But I want for this idea to stick that in every case, it begins with openness. Openness to collaboration, openness to new perspectives, and openness to applying expertise in ways that might serve, at the end of the day, peace and security. That's what SPS is for, to turn academic potential into security impact, and to do so across communities that might otherwise never work together. Science, I have already made this point, but I think it's very important that science is not just about breakthroughs, but it's about the connections that make those breakthroughs possible. So take today's discussion as an invitation. Our next call for proposals will be launched by the end of the year, and you will find on our website all the details that you need if you're interested in applying. We also have some leaflets available on the stand on my left, and I encourage you to pick one on your way out or to come talk to us after the panel. Thank you so much for your attention, and in case there are any questions from the public for our panelists, I hand you the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrea da Florea and the panelists for discussing very interesting topics during our session which we have here today, natural day here in Czech Pavilion. And we are coming very close to our last session, which we will have now. And the last session will be pitching the startups, pitching certain disruptive security solutions of the startups which are here today. And I'm very excited to see them coming up here and talking to us, pitching us their ideas, pitching us their business solutions which they have prepared for us today. So it will be basically kind of like a very interactive thing, because they will be coming here, I'll be calling them one by one, and they will be pitching their ideas. So we'll have always 6 minutes to pitch that idea, and you can listen to that. So without further ado, let me welcome the first, Mr. Kawabata Kentaro from company WATA. Give him a big hand.
I think I have 6 minutes, right?
Exactly, 6 minutes.
Okay, I'll try to keep it short. Hello, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, my name is Samir Naikasi. I'm a member of WATA, and we are a Japanese company that I will introduce now. So, is that okay for the slide? Okay. I'd like to invite everybody here to look carefully at this house, because it's unique. It's a house that is located in Japan, in Karuizawa, a mountainous region 1 hour north of Tokyo. And this house is unique for a very specific reason. It's completely off the grid. Not only for energy, you see the solar panel, everybody's used to solar panel now, but this house is completely off the grid for water. Meaning that this house is recycling 100% of its water, or nearly 100%. You can see on the top left side, the system that is recycling this water. It's a home appliance-like system. And you can see on the bottom left, the application that helps the user see the amount of water that is using and recycling. Oh, sorry. This house is the vision that we have for the future of water, and this is what we try to develop at WOTA. Many people in the room knows already the problem of water scarcity in the world. Unfortunately, it's getting stronger and stronger with climate change. But there's another problem related to water, which is infrastructure and resilience of this infrastructure. So in Japan, but many countries of the world, the cost of infrastructure is extremely high compared to the water tariff and the taxes, and this infrastructure is getting older and older. And at WOTA, we believe that the solution to tackle this problem is to have decentralized system. No longer centralized system. Of course, in cities and denser urban area, centralized systems are more efficient. But in many islands, mountainous region, rural area, but also areas in the world that need reconstruction, rebuild after natural disaster or after wars, can use this system more efficiently. We basically want to bring the same revolution that already happened in energy, telecommunication, the same revolution through manufacturing in water. To do so, we developed two kinds. We are a startup, so we have a vision. We try to develop products that materialize this vision. The first project that we developed was portable, and the product that we're developing now are residential. For the portable system, we developed something during COVID for hand washing, but just by recycling 1,000 times 20 liters of water. So you can have it anywhere, no connection to pipeline, just this system. And the other one is a tiny treatment water system for showers. So we started this principle of decentralized, extreme decentralization, reusing 98% of the water with those two systems. The adoption of the system in Japan is quite strong, and actually the strongest application is for natural disaster, and that's the reason why we are here today. I think within the activities of NATO and many countries, the question of resilience after disaster and after war is a big question. We used our system in disaster in Japan. We used them as well in the Turkey-Syrian border in 2023. We worked with JICA disaster relief team, and we sent 10 systems to help the people affected by the earthquake. And we used our system as well, unfortunately, in a major earthquake that happened in Noto Peninsula, the north of Japan, last year. What we did, 300,000 people were affected by this disaster. I think you can see the condition of the infrastructure. You imagine that if the road are like this, imagine the pipeline below. So what we did, we contributed humbly, but we tried, and we sent 200 wash systems for the hand, 100 showers, and we were able to support 10,000 people out of the 100,000 people that were heavily affected on the water part. We worked with the government, we worked with the NGO, a major NGO in Japan called Nippon Foundation, and we provided our system to the evacuees, but also to hospitals. During that time, what's happening, usually having food supply and having water to drink is easier, but having water for hygienic purpose that allow to avoid the spread of diseases during winter and during those disasters is very difficult. And this is where the decentralized system played a very good role. So we occupy a space that is very unique in the sense that we are able to cover all the value chain during disaster management for water, which other solutions are not able to do fully. Thanks to our contribution, we were very honored to gain the recognition from His Majesty the Emperor of Japan, and also prime ministers and former prime ministers, and the support from Japanese government has been very strong in trying to realize the vision that we have for decentralization. One was integrating in the budget of Japan this idea of decentralized infrastructure. The other one was to work on domestic regulation, and we work as well with ISO to try to develop new standards. And now we try to work with municipalities, prefectures, and the government to develop a robust system in case of major earthquake in Japan. These are the system we developed for disaster management. But after the disaster happened, we need to rebuild. That's the case today in Noto Peninsula, a peninsula that has 300,000 inhabitants. And to do so, we think that decentralized of residential system is also the solution. So this is the system that we launched actually 1 month ago. It's called the water unit. And it recycles all the water at home. So you are not going to drink the water from the toilet. This is not what I'm saying. We recycle separately the water from the toilet to the flush, and the gray water, wherever the source is, bathroom, kitchen, etc., is recycled to a drinkable level that allows you to use it for the exact same purpose. This system has been inspired, piloted in Japan, in houses that you see here in the rural region of Japan. We installed it as well in the remote island of Choshima that has 300 inhabitants, relying heavily on desalination, which is extremely costly and uses much more energy than what's happening on the main island of Japan. So you see also an idea for reconstruction after territory has been destroyed is also to use trailer house, so we can combine, integrate our solution. And with solar panel, we have something completely autonomous that give us more time, maybe 10 years before you're able to rebuild something like a centralized infrastructure. We are now developing at village scale to show that at community level, by saving the cost of the centralized system, mainly pipeline, we can go much more quickly. So this is in Takehara in Hiroshima Prefecture. And talking about TRL level, we work with the SBRR program to try to get to the TRL level 7. We passed already the 6 this year. We gained also recognition and support from the Earthshot Prize, which is from the Real Foundation, and this brought us our first opportunity overseas in a small island nation called Antigua and Barbuda, 100,000 inhabitants, much smaller than Japan. And they also have the project to build houses, so 3,000 houses, imagine for a population of 100,000 inhabitants. It's a very big challenge. The challenge that they have is electricity and water centralized system do not work, so they use solar panel, but for water they lose 50% of the water in the pipeline. And for wastewater they don't have centralized system, so they use septic tanks, but they are not working properly. And by using our system, they solve all the problems that they have with water. So we started to pilot. You see our system installed in the garden. And this kind of system can really help going much faster, having better water quality, and solve the problem of water pollution in those areas. Yes. You see the scale now that this is the first house where we installed, our system is here, and hopefully we can help on other houses as well. Our intention overseas is to start with small island, try to spread in a region very remote, like Caribbean islands, the island in the Pacific, the island in the Indian Ocean, to develop more and more our system. We have as well the intention to support in Ukraine in the reconstruction. We have as well the intention to support in NATO and in other provinces of the world, but we are very small. We are just a startup from Japan, so cooperation with any large actor and player is key for us, and that's the reason we are very happy and honored to be invited today by the Czech Pavilion and by NATO. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to Walter. Very interesting solution, and yeah, definitely something to look into in the future. And yeah, if you would like to chat with a representative with Walter, of course, he'll stay around, so you can have a chat with him. So let's move on to our second company, second startup, which is called Synspective, and I will ask Ms. Yoshikawa to come up to the stage. Is it this stuff? All right, sorry, maybe.
Okay, okay, perfect, perfect. Come. Expecting female, but getting male. No problem whatsoever.
Hello? Can you hear me? Well, okay. All right. So thank you very much for giving and later for giving this opportunity. All right. Okay. Let's get started. Oh, sure. Oh, great. All right. So, our industry's friend, as I, he already explained what SAR can do and is. So we are, one of the two Japanese small SAR company, and we call ourselves as our, SAR intelligence company. And I hope you understand what you mean, what I mean. All right, so we established, 2018, and we are big from Japanese cabinet R&D program called Impact. So we took over core nice technology and core nice people, and we commercialized and grow it. Right, and so we do our small SAR radar satellite design, manufacturing, and the data processing, and we do lots of multi-sensor analytics. And we are very global, and so now we have 220 people from 23 to 25 nationalities, including USA and European countries. And then from the start, our company is established to be a real global, means real global. Now headquarters is Tokyo, and the regional headquarters is APAC. Headquarters is Singapore, and we have established respectively USA in Korea, Denver, headed by Maxwell executive, ex-Maxwell executive. I'm from Digital as well. And then January 1st, our EMEA, European, Middle East, Africa, growth leader. He started in Scottish, and then also this month, our Latin America growth leader, who's from as well, veteran from Digital, Maxer. He started. Okay, so how many satellites? We have launched 6 to date, all success. We are God blessed, and partially thanks to Rocket Lab as well. So we have 4 operational today, and we continue growing. For instance, we are scheduled to add 2 more and 6 more next year, blah. And then we're going to, build up 30 plus constellation before within 2020. Okay. All right. So I skipped what it is. So this is from our very first imagery, showing Tokyo Haneda. All right. So like others, we have a variety, multiple types of data sites, data types. So now we have from highest resolution 25 to 3 meter, and our signature is one of the unique thing is the size of the data. This is one example that we took for the unfortunate NATO earthquake. So our 3 meter resolution imagery can take 20 kilometer width and up to 500 kilometer. So it is very good weapon at the 3 meter, very clear for disaster and other like maritime domain awareness and other national security uses. Right, and we are analytics company as well. So we have 5 series of in-house analytics today, like this, like land displacement and the flood damage and big disaster, assessment. and forestry and offshore wind. And new one, sixth intelligence is this national security. We can tell because of the power of the daily operations, we can tell do monitoring of port and other named things, and also changes, and also in cooperation with our European company as well. We have a very good quality of detection and classification of the vessel and the aircraft. And as we raise our resolution, we start covering more of this detection and classification technology for the ground moving things, items, targets. All right, so pretty global engagement we're doing. So including Mr. Norte, Secretary, and this is really pictures look like a picture, but this is a photo of our new factory, which can manufacture 12 vehicles per year. Okay, we have it in Yamato, so we've been receiving a series of visitors from the USA, and also of course Japanese government and other international visitors. They're very impressed. So I hope we can bring some of you and later folks in the near future. So bottom line is what we may do is our scientific and capacity we have today, even that continue growing. So it can be a nice addition to what you have, NATO. And our Scottish guy, our European leader from Naxer. So he's keeping in touch with the HQ and the NRCA, of NATO, and as well as other big named companies of NATO, participants. So we hope we can find ways to offer our values, either here NATO companies, and also in accordance with the Japan and NATO partnership evolution, we are ready to offer more to NATO. Okay, and you have your our local people, so we're pleased to continue working with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was Capital Company's perspective about SAR. And now we're gonna move to another startup, and that's our startup is called Sakana AI. Ms. Kazuki Cheko. Big hands.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for this opportunity to come in here today. Okay, we are Sakana AI. We are building a world-class AI R&D company in Tokyo. We founded in 2023, so we are less than 2 years old. So we are very early startup in Japan. So our founders are these three guys. CEO David Ha is the Google brain from Google Brain. He's the nature-inspired AI researchers, and he also had lots of experience in the Goldman Sachs in Japan. Also, the CTO Lyle Jones, he is an expert of the transformer technology. He's actually the researcher at the Google Research at the time, and he is one of the 8 authors of transformer paper. Attention is all you need. And the third one, the COO is Ren Ito. He was the ex-diplomat in Japan for 15 years, and after that experience, he moved on to the private sector, and he worked at Mercari. It's a C2C EC market in Japan. Also, and he also had a chance to work as a COO in Stability AI. It's a generative AI company in London. So, what we have studied, we are the AI research lab, and we are very, very good at making small models and AI agents. And luckily, our research is very highly evaluated from the abroad and also in Japan. So we have the investors from NVIDIA, Lux, and other top-tier VCs in the US, and also we have the Japanese investors from the large corporation, including 3 mega banks, the MUFG, SMBC, and Mizuho. So our position is very clear. We are the AI expert. So we have lots of expertise on the AI technology, but at the same time, we are very focused on the domains, 2 domains actually, finance and defense sector. So we try to dive into the sector, like the finance and defense, and we try to make the sticky partnership with them. In terms of the finance sector, we had a large contract, multi-year partnership with MUFG Bank, and we announced in last May. And in the defense sector, we don't have any contracts yet, but still we are trying to dive into this difficult but very interesting sector. For example, we won the Innovation Award at the US-Japan Global Innovation Challenge, co-hosted by DIU and other Japanese MOD. And we are the only company selected as the finalist for both topics, disinformation and biosecurity. Let me introduce about our products, our researches. So in terms of biosecurity, we created the agent-based model empowered by the large language model. In reality, it's the agent model is very common technology to imitate or simulate the prediction, the spread of COVID-19, but the simulation is still very limited technology. So we enhanced by LLM to include the more personal or individual characteristics of each individual person, and it makes the simulation much more realistic. The second topic is about the disinformation. There are many AI generated images, especially in the wars or the disaster images. It's very important to distinguish the real photos and the AI generated images. We created the large model to distinguish those 2 images successfully. And we are very, very lucky to have a chance to meet NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte last April. And we showed this information technology too. So currently, we are focusing on 2 defense-focused areas. One thing is about the cognitive domain. So in the cognitive domain, we are trying to make the AI loop from the detective threats, analyze the elements, and predict the impacts and plan the countermeasures. In the social media area, there are many bots trying to spread a lot of information that might be disinformation or that might be the bad narrative, not preferable for us. So we try to find out the split in the social media across the many social medias to understand what they're trying to do and what we could possibly counteract to them. Another topic that we are trying to focus on is about unmanned asset control. we have the models that we could try to plan the missions and process the data, collect all the sensor information, and also the coordinate the fleet of assets, and also the perform the onboarding analysis, especially without the connectivity. We have the technology to make the small models that is installed in the edge device. So we can use that technology to control the unmanned assets even without the connectivity or the internet connection. So maybe you can see the smartphone. It's kind of the Japanese chatbot. It looks pretty normal. Everyone knows that's a chatbot, like the ChatGPT. But there's a difference. We can use this chatbot without internet connectivity. So that's one of the key our technology that we can very good at, and we can also make those the small models for example, for vision or other modalities as well. Thank you very much. And if you are interested in any models, like especially small models, please contact me.
Thank you very much. That was Ms. Tazuki Chieko from Sakana AI. Very interesting presentation and about AI, artificial intelligence. And now let's move to another company, another startup. I hope I will read it correctly. Elcom. There you go. Mr. Mochizuki Yuan. Yep, thank you. Big hands to.
So thank you very much for having me here. It's my pleasure. So my name is Yuya Mochizuki, CEO and CFO at Elcom. So what we do is actually developing a quantum repeaters for the quantum internet, which is a new generation network to transfer quantum instead of the digital information. So as we all know, large tech companies like Google or IBM or Amazon, they have been focusing on developing the quantum computing for decades. So what is potential for quantum computing? So it be exponentially improve computing power, speed, efficiency for whatever industry what requires computing. So, but the quantum itself is two sides. So it can be a shield to accelerating the computing power, but it can be also a sword to break the current cybersecurity system, like RSS hyper. So this is a quantum threat we are facing sooner or later. But some people, believe this is a very futuristic technology, like EXPO stuff. But according to the McKinsey report, so the current cybersecurity system could be broken between the 2027 and 36. So it's actually coming soon. And in addition to that, how the strategy of the hacker is harvest now and decrypt later, which means actually they can steal the data. Currently we are exchanging. That's not that much difficult, and just to keep it. Then the quantum computer is ready, then just break it. So our quantum threat is already here. Then to counter this threat, quantum internet is one of the solutions, which is theoretically unbreakable solution based on the science mechanics, physics mechanics. So that's why we need a quantum internet. But why we need a quantum repeaters we are actually developing? Because quantum itself is very weak with optical fiber loss and environmental noise. So that's why we can't transfer even the one quantum qubit without quantum repeaters over the distance. So that's why we need a quantum repeaters. So we are spun-off startup from the Yokohama National University and established in the 2020, so almost 5 years old. And so one of we have a very strong partnership, and one of, like, for example, like Toshiba, they are one of the quantum network provider, which is quantum QKD, quantum key distribution. And also we got some grants from like ATORA, which is one of the organization in the Ministry of Japan. And also we, doing some testbed project with Mitsubishi Electronics or SoftBank, and also the quantum computing company, Quantum. And through years of research, we have all necessary technologies for the quantum repeaters, like 2 photon sources to generate quantum, and a quantum memory to restore quantum. Not only this product, but we also have the frequency stabilization, wavelength conversion. So we have all necessary technology. And successfully, we launched one of the key components, 2 photon sources last year. And we have customers already. And also some attraction from the Japanese companies like Research Lab or Telecom and the Defense and quantum computing company. But also, at the same time, we are targeting the outside of Japan, including the NATO. So that's why I'm here. And also, we have to pay attention to the adversary countries. So like China, they put they put 2.5 times more than the Europe in terms of the public funding. And also like patents, China holds 30% more than the US. So that's the current situation. And we have a very strong team, especially the Professor Horiki. He's been focusing on the basic research for like 20 or 30 years since he was a PhD student. And last but not least, so we are looking for the corporate partners, and also we are hiring the global talents to join the quantum journey. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Welcome, Mr. Mochizuki. And the last startup which will be presenting this session is Mr. Yoda Masaru from InOffice.
Hi everyone, my name is Masaru Yoda from InOffice. So first of all, thank you very much for this great opportunity. Today I would like to introduce our company and product, so let's get started. So first, let me ask this. So how many of you here today have lower back pain? So please raise your hands. Okay, thank you very much. So no worries, so we have solutions. Because we are a Japanese exoskeleton company with over 35,000 units deployed. Currently, we have 2 types of exoskeletons. One is for back support, and the other is for arm support. And regarding a back support exoskeleton, 5 types are available. And once again, in terms of sales record, we have sold more than 35,000 units already. So which is one of the best seller exoskeletons in the world. So since we have 5 models of back support exoskeleton, so let me explain which one is right fit for your task. So the criteria choosing right exoskeleton depends on the weight of item handled, the types of movement required. So now you can determine which one is the right one for your task. Then, in order to figure out our exoskeleton, so let's watch this video first. So this is a typical application in logistics industry. Actually, this box is quite heavy, which is about 50 pounds, so almost 25 kilo. But workers can work very healthy. Okay, then let's look at the product main features. So in common, our exoskeleton operates without electricity, which means no charging required and unlimited operating time. So this is very friendly for users. And water and dust proof, so you can use any environment. And lightweight and no igniting, no exploding. So this is very, very important, especially for military use. And easy to wear. Actually, it takes only 10 seconds to wear. Then these are use cases. So as you can see, our exoskeleton can be used in a lot of industries, such as manufacturing, logistics, agriculture, elder care, construction, and defense, of course, forestry, fishing, livestock, and emergency responders. And today, so I would like to share two specific use cases in defense industry. Actually, last year, a huge earthquake occurred in Noto Peninsula in Japan. And this earthquake destroyed a lot of infrastructures and buildings. And right after this disaster, most recovery work rely on manual labor without access to electricity. That's why people need exoskeleton. In fact, the muscle suit has been utilized in disaster response sites and evacuation shelter to support physical tasks. And the other one. So actually, so Japan Self-Defense Force utilize our exoskeleton. So regarding a back support exoskeleton, they can be used in applications like transporting supplies for logistics, assistance in carrying on injured person on a stretcher, and operation on battlefield. And we also have arm support exoskeleton, so this can be used in aircraft maintenance. And this is current business area. So our products are available in 23 countries, mainly Europe and Asia. In other words, so we can set up a demonstration or test in these countries. So in NATO member countries, no problem. Okay, then this is last slide. So we are aiming for global business expansion. That's why we are looking for companies and organizations that are interested in selling our exoskeletons, or would like to test or purchase our exoskeleton, or cooperate with us in developing a new product in order to improve the working environment. So if you are interested, please contact us. Thank you very much for listening.
So thank you very much to Mr. Yudamasaru from Infosys and that really concludes the session of the startups, of disruptive startups, which pitched their ideas to us. I think they were all very interesting, and I'm sure there will be a lot of discussions over some dinner, which we will have just very, very soon. But before we go, I would like to thank you all for being here with us today during the NATO Day, which we had held here in Czech Pavilion, here in Dashway Hall. I think we've heard a lot of very interesting things, and I'm pretty sure we have a lot of things to discuss. So from now on, please that's the end of this NATO Day here in Czech Pavilion. We will have, I think from now on we can go to guided tour through the Czech Pavilion, so we can have a look what is prepared here for you from the perspective of the EXPO. And then at 7 o'clock evening we will have a dinner on our CTP lunch. So once again, thank you very much for attending, and have a lovely evening. Thank you.
The guided tour will be done by me, so you have, I don't know, 5-10 minutes, however much you need to have a little refreshment, and whenever you're ready, we can go see the pavilion. So.